Calvin T. Mann, leading EMIY, served over 20,000 youth through speaking, coaching, and mentoring. He has inspired us for years. Welcome to EMIY TV Podcast with your host, Calvin T. Mann, the Encourager.
Surprise! Okay, so not quite Calvin T. Mann. Today it is Heather Heteru, and I am hosting and co-hosting with my special guest, Lakita Ferguson, and we are here to share some information with you on today's EMIY TV Put Your Family First podcast. I'm really excited about being here today and having this conversation because it just seems that whenever Lakita and I get together, there is just this stir of energy, information, and resources. So we are going to just share a little bit with you about today. Our topic is restoration of family, healing through our grief. But more broadly, we're going to kind of frame this around our Peacefully Thriving workshop learning series that we are in session 2 coming up this Friday, August the 25th. And so if you don't have pen and paper, if you missed session 1, you might want to tune in and listen a little more sharply and closely today. We're going to give a little bit of a review of our session 1, kind of some highlights, and hopefully you'll be able to glean some information for you and for your loved ones. So I just want to pause a minute and talk about what we do as EMIY, because we have a wonderful lineup of activities to happen between now and the end of the year. And this is EMIY, our organization. And if you, as you're following and you need more information about who we are and what we do, you can always reach us at EMIYworld.com. That's EMIY world, like the globe.com. And on there, you can find ways to donate, find ways to support, find ways to register your boys ages 8 to 24 for our mentoring programs, which start Sunday, September the 17th. Lots of great opportunities going on between now and then. We're going to share a little bit about that, kind of interjecting as we go through today. So just excited about our work with EMIY. The mission of our organization is the restoration of family through seeding the lives of boys, through prevention and intervention activities. One of those activities is our mentoring program. That's just one of many. We have a Smash Suicide campaign. We also have a Man-to-Man Youth Summit coming up October the 7th. We have lots of activities that we have throughout the year that we are actually targeting how we can connect to families and how we can connect to boys. It doesn't limit our work that we do with girls in schools and in other programs, but for the purposes of our mentoring, MEN touring. For mentoring, our programs are specifically for boys. That's ages 8 to 24. And even on our website, if you go down through initiatives, you'll find the application to sign up now for that September 16th registration. It's a 14-week mentoring program. We have a spring program and we have a fall program. So we're entering the time for our fall program. And so if you know a boy ages 8 to 14 and he needs mentoring, or if he doesn't have a father figure in his life right now, or if he needs just that extra guidance and mom and grandma see that he needs that guidance, our program might just be for you. We are locally in Detroit. We service, we draw boys from 4 counties. That's Wayne, Oakland, Macomb, and Washtenaw counties. We get boys from that distance to support and enroll in our mentoring program and other programs that we offer. So if you are listening and if you know a boy, and I'm saying a boy, we're not talking about race, we're not talking about ethnicity, we're talking about boys ages 8 to 24. If you know they need the support, this may be a venue for them. If not, we can also refer you to other mentoring programs that we have connections with who are doing some things maybe a little bit different than we do at EMIY, that may be closer to what you're looking for them, or they are seeking as a resource for themselves. So don't let the time go by where you don't have your son or grandson or nephew or cousin sit and not be involved because this guided direction is what our boys need right now. They need to have fathers and father figures embrace them and lift them up, and also connect them with the level of identity that helps them feel valued and appreciated. So again, that's EMIWorld.com. Please check in, sign up for our mentoring program. Again, starts Sunday, September 17th. And we have a 5 hour a week that we mentor them. That's Sundays and Mondays. There's more information on the website, but I just wanted to give you a heads up and get you a head start so that you can go ahead and get enrolled, get your son, grandson enrolled. Let's get our boys in some focused, positive activities. All right, so now I'm going to put her on the spot. My co-host today, Lakita Ferguson. She's going to tell a little bit about who she is and the work that she does. So,
well, it's not really putting me on the spot. That's what I'm here for. So a little bit about me. I am Lakita Ferguson, a trauma and divorce recovery coach, and my work centers around helping you find wholeness and harmony in your life, which often begins with finding the source or the root of pain. Oftentimes we go through life and we don't know what's causing us to feel physical pain, let alone emotional and mental pain. So in order for us to find wholeness and harmony, we go back to the root. And so what my company does, On Cue Coaching and Consulting, is that we provide an open, nurturing, safe environment for you to achieve qualitative goals. So that's what the On Cue stands for, open, nurturing, and qualitative. And our purpose, again, is to not only just help you find wholeness and healing and harmony in your life, but also to facilitate that in our communities, in our wherever we are living. So that may be Oakland County, Wayne County. Those are predominantly the areas that we focus on. We go into corporations, providing trauma-informed workshops so that their leaders and those that they are priming to be leaders have an emotional intelligence about them while they are navigating whatever they may be going through, whether that is the loss of a loved one, divorce recovery, so many things that we bring to work with us. No matter where we are, we bring our pain. And so that's my mission, is to help you find wholeness and healing. We've been in this state of wellness probably, I would say, the last 10 years, and it's becoming a new genre. You know, and it's important that we find wellness in our lives, not just something that we do on Friday, self-care day, or Sunday, self-care day, but every day. And in order to do that, every part of our life has to be harmoniously blended. We can't just expect our lives to be from 9 to 5 or after 5. And in order to do that, what I do is I offer holistic therapy. So we do timeline therapy, which is a source of neuro-linguistic programming. And what it does is allow you to reframe the negative emotions that you have around experiences in your life, not necessarily re-traumatizing you, because we don't want that for you, but we do want you to realize that you have the power to rewrite your own story. And so by doing that in a safe environment, you are, once again, in the driver's seat. You're the author of your story. And that's a very powerful tool that we use on a one-on-one basis. In groups, we do a lot of storytelling because we find that often we think that we're alone in our pain. And when we share our stories in a trauma-informed care practice, we find that not only do our stories align and sometimes parallel with others, but we find resources and ways to cope based on another person's experience. And so it's important to share our experiences. Again, in a safe environment, not everyone deserves to hear your story. And so we make sure that it is an environment that is going to be conducive to healing. So that is, in a nutshell, or as Heather likes to say, in the shell of a nut, a little bit about me and where we're doing more speaking engagements. So you'll see that if you follow my website, lakitasimone.com, or any social media at CoachQSimone.com.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that awesome introduction. And as you continue to listen, some other things are going to unfold where you'll be able to make some connections. And I want, as I always try to preference our conversation with kind of defining some terms, but also to kind of frame this opportunity that we have to share. that this is a judgment-free zone. So this is not about judgment. Judgment meaning good, bad, right, and wrong. We are specifically talking about tools to restore our families, our children, our relationships, and our communities. We as EMIY and as Your Inspired Journey, which I'll tell you a little bit about in a moment, we are committed to shifting the statistic and the dynamic of that we have 70% single-headed households. We want to flip that number to 60% married households, married, happily, healthy households, that we can make sure that we're raising our children in a way that is a generational investment. The investments that we're making right now in our children are taking them down a course where their legacy is in jeopardy. That means our legacy is in jeopardy. And I just want to add this piece. We talk about acceptable culture, right? Acceptable culture and people who are interested in getting healthy and healing and mental wellness. This is what we have to shift in terms of our culture. Our acceptable culture allows a lot of behaviors that are not conducive to our lifestyle, that are not conducive to our restoration of family and our children. So we have to be mindful in our acceptable cultures that we are creating the culture that nurtures family, that nurtures restoration individually and collectively, and also moves us in a direction, right, that of health, of wealth, of prosperity. We have to do that work. We can't wait for someone else to show up and do the work for us. We have to be on the front line, not the sideline. So let's move off the sideline as more of us move off the sideline and shift the direction that we're going in terms of family restoration to that 60% number of two-parent family healthy households. That's where we're moving. And that's one of our collective goals with Encourage Me, I'm Young, with Good Fathers Only, with Your Inspired Journey. So we're encouraging others to join us in this work. How do we begin this process and continue the process of restoring families? So on that note, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and my work as Your Inspired Journey. I talked a little bit about my role as executive director with Encourage Me, I'm Young. So this is the other side of the work that I do. My purpose-driven work is in the inspired journey. So what does that mean? That means that, one, all of us have a purpose. And what we're trying to do is be inspired to follow the pathway of that purpose. So the things that inspire you, whatever your spark is, it's always a great beginning. Sometimes we have to remember that it just takes a spark for us to ignite that flame of what's next. And so as a personal change coach, my goal is to help you identify that spark, identify what is next for you. And the way that we work is a little bit different from most life coaches, as you may call them. I participate in this journey with you as a coach, as a sounding board, as one who helps to draw out what's already in you. What you need is already there. Sometimes you just need somebody to help you pull that out so that we can move forward. And we do dig a little bit deeper into what obstacles are preventing you from being who you know you were called and meant to be, doing the work that you were meant to do. We also work with corporations specifically around customer sensitivity training, around intergenerational cultures, around making sure that your team is cohesive enough to accomplish whatever goal you set forth for them. And so we do some of that corporate work. We've been doing this work since 2012 as Your Inspired Journey. And we are going to continue to move this needle, move it forward, because ultimately the goal, even for Your Inspired Journey, is to have an individual find and become their own personal change coach, find and become that same change agent for someone else. So most importantly, we have to do that for ourselves, but then that information, those skills, those tools spill down into our family and the places where we work, play, worship, shop. It spills over into the other areas of our lives. And we want to continue that journey. We want to continue that mission, that vision and purpose. And that's what makes us inspired. and helps us to inspire others. So this is your inspired journey. So now we get into the good stuff. So I want to talk about our Peacefully Thriving learning series. This is a 3-part series. It is the last Friday of every month through September. So we've already passed our July session. We're going to talk a little about that and highlight. This week, Friday, is the next chance to register. We are going to direct you to how to find that. One, it's on Lakita's website. So you'll be able to find it and navigate there. She'll talk you through how to get there. And then the next session that we have is September 29th. Mind you, we're still doing this work in between. We're doing it one-on-one in between. We are available for people who want to take that next step, whether it's through your inspired journey, whether it's through Coach Q, whatever pathway you need to take, we need for you to start taking those steps and continuing those steps as we already started. So we're going to talk a little bit about our Peacefully Thriving learning series. I'm going to let Lakita talk a little bit about where that Peacefully Thriving idea came from, and then we'll kind of get into some of the conversation around how we create a safe space.
Yeah, so Peacefully Thriving, the idea behind that is we know that we've come out of this pandemic of, technically, because we're back out in these streets, as you could say. However, the after effect is still there. And so a lot of us have been thriving in chaos. We are thriving in survival mode.
Yes.
And in order for our nervous systems to calm down, we need to peacefully thrive. And so what that means is, number one, addressing the hurts, addressing the pains, addressing the shock. Often we just want to keep going. We want to make up for lost time without actually acknowledging the losses that we may have experienced, just the uncertainty that we were living through. And what that does is to our nervous system is it keeps it active. We are in the fight, flight, or freeze part of our brains. And so just a little bit about the work that I do, it is centered primarily around the brain, because as I've shared previously, that I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis in 2010. And so I value the importance of the brain as the center of our being. Mm-hmm. And what happens to our nervous system, the central nervous system, when we are thriving in chaos, we end up being burnt out. And our workplace becomes just this place of anxiety. Our homes, we went through a world where the home and work was no longer separated. It now became we're working from home, we're doing everything from home. So now we don't have a break from who we could create at work and who we were at home. So the Peacefully Thriving, again, allows us to have that wholeness and harmony throughout our life. And we're discussing some of the grief that we've experienced throughout this time, but also from the lens of, okay, what's next? How can we move forward? And as Heather mentioned, be that personal change for ourselves as well as for our families and our community.
Thank you. So eloquently spoken. So one of the questions that came up when people were asking about, okay, tell me about this Peacefully Thriving. What is that space like? And so I want to talk a little bit through what that looks like. And so I put a couple of bullet points down and we're going to expand on them a little bit. I said that the atmosphere that we create is one of peace and safety. That one, for me personally, good food and good conversation go hand in hand. We always have great food. And also the fellowship that we have around food. A lot of us, kind of in our acceptable culture, we do a lot of conversation, some of the tough things that we have to deal with. We use food and fellowship as the means to help support each other through it. We do that with repasts. We do that with family reunions and family gatherings. There's always food and fellowship in those spaces. And so in our workshop, we use that same kind of energy of what brings people together and creates that sense of safety. And because we have people who are vegetarians, we also have those healthy options.
Yes.
Well, this time it'll be probably lower carbs than last time because we had this phenomenal Alfredo. Both the noodles and the potatoes. It was delicious. It was the bomb. And that was sponsored by the Crab House. Shout out to the Crab House. And then the other thing that we create space for is new tools. My personal philosophy around the process of change begins with new information. You have to have new information. That information has to be appreciated and valued when it's received. Then in order for you to move forward, you have to apply that information. Once you apply that information, it begins to transform your circumstance, your mindset, and shift you into a level of transformation. That means you're not even on the same level, the same frequency, the same vibration that you were when you began that process. And that's what we want to do in every area of our lives with all of the challenges and obstacles that we face. Part of the solution is elevation. But in order to elevate, you have to release the weights, that is the WEIGHT and the WAIT. We pause when we're in those circumstances. Sometimes we try to move forward, but ultimately we feel like we've been held back and we're waiting for something to happen or waiting for something to change or waiting for the floor to drop. Whatever that weight is for you, this is the process of releasing the weight, both the weight, the heaviness, and the weight in terms of delay and time. And so that's kind of my perspective on the environment that we create. Lakita, what do you say?
You know, I would even expand or expound on what you just even mentioned about the information. The format of the Peacefully Thriving workshop was extended over 3 months specifically for a reason. It was very intentional. The word information, if you break it down, it is inform. So the information, the new tools that we are giving you, it takes time to be in form of your body. Over 3 months is typically the times that the minimum amount of time that I would work with a client is 3 months, because it takes time for new data to take on form within our bodies. And so every month has been segmented consecutively, intentionally, because we know that these are the processes and the steps that your mind and body need to take in order to come out on the other side a new person. So the atmosphere has even that layout to it. We're giving you so much information, even in bits and pieces. It is powerful. I know for one of the women that was there for sure was so emotional afterwards. I think we talked for like 45 minutes, just because of the impact that the information had on her. And it's one thing to read it. It's one thing to experience it. But when you hear that auditory feedback of someone else giving you data that confirms your experience, that takes on a new form.
It does.
It allows you to be validated in your experience. And so that's also part of the healing and the safe environment. We encourage you to feel warm and welcome to share, but you won't be forced to share. We had a very welcoming icebreaker. It was kind of fun.
Yes.
I don't like icebreakers where you go around the room and introduce yourself and you on the spotlight. So Heather had a wonderful tree there as a symbolic of what we were doing that day, and then we even had leaves on the trees that were incorporated into the icebreaker that allowed you to share a piece of yourself, what you were leaving behind, but also how you fit into that tree, the leaves, branches, and roots.
Oh, yeah. Talk about that. Talk about the roots. That's my favorite part.
Okay, so, we are familiar with, people come into your life for a reason, season, or lifetime. And I shared that for years, that expression, it sounds nice, but for me, something was unsettling about it, specifically in the reason part, because I wanted to know what was the reason. It's one thing to say, they were in your life for a reason, but I'm like, okay, but why?
Right.
So the leaves, branches, and roots takes on a different spin of that. The leaves meaning that sometimes people just come into your life for a good time. Just based on the time that you're having, that they are going to leave. They're going to break off. It may just be for the summer. That's your hangout buddy, your travel partner, someone that you were able to connect with over a specific event. But after that time, has passed, you're not surprised or even hurt when they leave your world or your life. Branches, though, are the individuals in our lives that the relationship seems strong. It seems very sturdy. And so when it starts to get weakened, we are shocked. And it could be because of the heaviness of our own experience. Maybe we're going through something that is changing who we are at our core, and maybe the other person can't handle that or don't know how to fit into that, or vice versa. And so those relationships, that person branches off. But what happens even with a branch is that even at a later time, you can take that branch and regraft it, graft it back into that tree. It just broke off for that temporary time. The root, however, is always there. That's that friend, that 4 a.m. friend that you could call. You haven't talked to them in 10 years. But if you call them at 4 o'clock in the morning, they're going to answer on the first ring, and their first question is, what's wrong? Mm-hmm. And you know that they have your back, your well-being, and no matter how long time has passed, the relationship is very firm and solid. Now with the tree, it could be a very long-living, years-aged tree. The roots can be very minimal. There might be several roots. It might be one firm root. If you get one firm relationship in your life, you are blessed. To have more than one root relationship is the icing on the cherry on top. Right. And so when we look at ourselves, even, the icebreaker was, which one are you? And not which one do you think you are? Because we all want to be the root.
Right.
But sometimes just because of where we are in our relationship, in our own lives, and the heaviness of our own lives, one of the, I forgot her age, but she was an elder woman that was there in the first workshop. And she acknowledged, right now, I'm probably a leaf, just because I'm going through my own healing journey and I don't have a lot of time or energy to give. And that's honest, and that's validating our experience. So when we acknowledge that right now I'm probably a leaf, right now I'm probably a branch, and it may not be that same way in every relationship, but you can identify which relationships you're the leaf and you're the branch. Not only does it allow for you to have give grace to others, but you can give grace to yourself and say, you know what, I'm going through something right now, and I'm just going to have to be a leaf.
Right, for sure. And and that was such a dynamic activity because it allowed you to define and refine who you are and when, how much you have to give, and be okay with it. Because I know personally, as I've been growing up, right, that used to stress me out. It would stress me out, and I would take it very personal, but I know why now because I understand what's underneath it. But at that point, I felt that, if you're my friend, then you're supposed to be there. I'm your friend. I'm going to be there. And I always had I had relationships that were kind of unbalanced because I felt like I needed to be there, but the other person may not have felt that they needed to be there or wasn't important enough, or they didn't need to support one activity versus another. Well, I have something else to do. I'm going to be with somebody else. And that used to break my heart. I would be so sensitive. Oh, you just don't like me anymore. And that was a space that I had that, even having that exercise to go back and refine and define who I am and who others are. I love the fact that you said, and offer grace.
Yes.
Offer grace to them, and most importantly, offer it to myself. To be okay with when somebody is a part of your life for a period of time and they're no longer a part of that life in the same way. I had to be okay with that. That's a behavior I had to unlearn in order to expand who I was becoming. But it was a great deal of stress for me, because friendships it was so important to me to develop those friendships and honor them in a way that I took it so personal that there was no grace to offer. I had no grace to offer. It was just anger or frustration or hurt feelings. And I really had to deal with that dynamic. And I know those of you who are watching, even though you may not say that out loud, that I'm not the only one who took those things personally and maybe still do. This gives us an opportunity to kind of reflect and heal. That's a really important part of where some of our stress comes from in our social relationships and those social circles.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really important piece that I think you really covered well in that particular workshop, and that I think everybody understood a little bit more about our health and our well-being in terms of our relationships in that way too. Yeah. So that was awesome. So the brain work. Talk about the brain work.
So again, that's my passion, the brain work. And so I share a lot of videos when I'm doing training because videos are powerful. They touch on all the senses. Even though we're seeing with our eyes, we get to fully experience what we're seeing. And so I played and shared a video from one of my mentors and someone that I look up to, Ian Van Sant, where she discussed what pain means. And it stands for an acronym, Pay Attention Inward Now. And so we went through not just the brain, but the mental and emotional aspect of grief. Starting with, we did a little mindful work, a little meditation to relax the body. And we also broke down what it does to our nervous system. And so typically we go through our sympathetic and our parasympathetic nervous systems automatically throughout the day. So the sympathetic nervous system is the one that when you are late for work, and you have 10 minutes to get ready, you manage to accomplish everything. Or like I did the other day when somebody called and said they were on their way to my house, I cleaned up in 10 minutes.
Right.
It was perfection because that sympathetic nervous system kicked in. And that's that adrenaline. It allows you to flee from danger. And the parasympathetic nervous system allows us to calm down. That's when we're sleeping at rest. But what happens is you can get stuck in one or the other. You can become in a depressive state, depressed, because your parasympathetic nervous system is being pushed down. You have no energy to do anything. You're sleeping a lot. All you can manage to do is barely take a shower, maybe brush your teeth, because you have low energy. Whereas on the other side, sympathetic nervous system is you're constantly in that fight or flight nervous system where you are constantly on the go. This person may not even seem like they have a problem because they could be an overachiever. They could be at work and they're just constantly, they're meeting all the benchmarks. They're that top person, that top performer, but really their nervous system is overactive. And so I shared some diagrams on what that does to our nervous system, even what it does to our brain. And I explained how my 5 scars on my brain were affected by me being stuck in a sympathetic nervous system, constantly going, trying to outrun myself, outrun the pain that I was experiencing. And so when we do meditation, that allows us to balance, whether we are in our parasympathetic nervous system, meaning that we are very low energy, or the sympathetic nervous system where we are constantly on the go and that cortisol stress level is high. Meditation allows you to find the balance between the two. So we did a little meditation, and we also, as we were doing that meditation, encouraged you to call out verbally where you felt the pain. Because a lot of times, we don't even know to acknowledge where you physically feel the pain. Mm-hmm. And there's diagrams and several research that has been done based on the source of where you have pain, that is telling you something about your body. If you have a lot of chest pain in the center here, especially if you're going through grief, that could be because your, as the Chinese medicine says, that your love chakra is closed, meaning that you are afraid to love, or you have this love with nowhere to go. So knowing how to read and listen to your body is so important, and it starts with understanding how your brain works. And again, giving grace to yourself when you realize, like, okay, I'm in one of these nervous systems and I'm stuck. We are giving you the tools to know how to become unstuck so that you can be more healthy in your productivity, in your day-to-day life, and not feel like, you're out of balance.
And that is such an amazing tool to have. Mm-hmm. We just kind of feel our way through situations. I love the fact that in this work and in our sessions that we're helping people to, again, define and refine the things that we have taken for granted, or we have overlooked, or we have glossed over, right? This opportunity to identify where your pain is. And we know that pain is not only that, it's also a trigger. Mm-hmm. And when we think about grief, we can be grieving the loss of a job, the loss of a pet, the change of your circumstance, the change of your financial situation, the change of a child going off to college or moving out on their own. All of these are things that trigger that response that Lakita was talking about. And what do you do? How do you manage? How do you get through it? And a lot of us just kind of sit in it. We sit in it because we don't know what to do. And we don't know that there are tools to help us, even as a strategy as accessible as meditation. Mm-hmm. People, kind of, that doesn't really help me. I can't sit still long enough to meditate, or I'll just fall asleep. There are all of the reasons and the ways that people don't use such a accessible tool as meditation. I'm not saying that it's easy. I'm saying that it is a strategy that we can apply that doesn't cost. You can do it right where you are. You can meet yourself in that space. You don't have to make a lot of financial investment, time investment, location investment. Like, you don't have to drive somewhere to do it. You just need to find that center and access that center. And I love the fact that she mentioned the heart chakra, mm-hmm. how important that is. And for those of you who don't know, there's 7 chakras that in this system that I refer to. It's 7 chakras there. If you don't know them, this is a great opportunity to have this journey and look it up. Chakras, look it up. And as you do, learn more of the tools that are available and accessible to you. It opens you up once you start to Google. Yeah. Google to start. Look for good resources and good, validate those sources. But starting somewhere is the best step that you can take. The best next step that you can take is to then learn more about it and apply it to your life.
Yeah, there's so many. I view it as a troubleshooting guide. Mm. In especially with technology, I remember writing books or manuals when I was working in accounting, and there was always a troubleshooting section in the back. Mm. If this doesn't work, do this. Right. And then try this, and then try this. And then it was like, if all else fails, call IT. Right. Right. They wanted you to use the book. Or GOD. Right. One or the other. Go to the source. And that is what, going back to what you mentioned earlier, Heather, is about life coaching. I feel like sometimes life coaching gets a bad rap. Mm-hmm. Or we get lumped in to people who may have just called themselves a coach because they've come out of out on the other side and they want to help someone, and that is admirable. And still, there are techniques and strategies and healthy ways to experience coaching, a variety of different types of coaching. Mm-hmm. As much as I'm a coach, I'm also a practitioner. Mm-hmm. So I know how to give you manageable and practical tools and tips for your life based on what you are experiencing. And troubleshooting, whatever it may be in your life, there's so many tools and so many avenues to go down to where you don't have to suffer. You don't have to continue to be in pain. My goal, whenever I work with anyone, and I'm going to venture out and speak for Heather as well, my goal is to get you to the point where you don't need me.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely.
I really want to get you to be your own coach, to be your own advocate, your own practitioner, because I do believe, as Heather does, that everything you need is within you. You just haven't learned how to tap into it yet.
Right.
And so teaching you, giving you these tools to learn how to tap into it is our mutual goal.
Yes, absolutely. If you can talk a little bit about kind of the mindset shift and I call it the trauma drama loop, and also how we use masking and try our best to cover it up.
Yeah, so that was another of the tools that we were able to give. It's one of my favorite activities to do. And I haven't used an expression that childhood or past drama turns into adult. Let me rephrase that. Past trauma or childhood trauma turns into adult drama. So that's the trauma drama loop.
Yes.
And what happens is, once again, we experience these traumas, and trauma is anything that caused a sudden change to what you felt was safe, meaningful, or predictable.
Yes.
Whatever,
Say it again.
Trauma is a sudden change to the meaning, safety, and predictability of your world. So what may be traumatic for you may be just fine for somebody else, and they can just breeze through it. What is traumatic for each individual person is unique. And so it's important, once again, to acknowledge our own traumas. Mm-hmm. What happens is when we compare our trauma or we minimize it, we never give voice to it. In the back of our minds, we're constantly telling our story, telling ourselves this one story, whatever that may be. And underneath it all is what I call the ants. Mm-hmm. And the ants stand for abandonment, neglect, trust, or shame. Underneath all the pain is one of those four: abandonment, neglect, trust, or shame. And what happens is we mask it with unhealthy habits, unhealthy behaviors. And so in that exercise, that's what we did. We literally handed out masks for you to write on with markers, whatever color you chose. They didn't have any significant meaning. They were just yours. And on the outside is how the world views you, or how you think the world views you. I think the world views me as strong and always responsible and always able to be resilient and push through. But on the inside, on one half is, how do you view yourself? How do you view yourself when you're with your friends and your family? On the other side, what's something that no one knows about you? Because that's what we are really carrying with us, whether it's an abandonment issue, neglect, trust, or shame. And what that did is put a visible, tangible tool to what you feel on the inside, to be able to acknowledge that, like, you know what, I've been masking my pain with food, with donuts. I've been masking my pain.
Krispy Kreme.
With mine is candy, you know? It's like,
right.
And I know now that's okay, what am I masking? Before you eat the candy, before you unwrap the wrapper, what are you masking? And these are the tools. These are the self-awareness tools that gives us insight to go within. Because once again, pain, pay attention inward now. That is what it's really, really calling for us to do.
Thank you. That activity was so very well received, and to go through the process. Going through the process, it starts to make so much sense, and you can find yourself in your journey being able to go and refine and define those issues, concerns, circumstances for yourself, and to remember that when we experience things as a child, we often keep that childhood lens as an adult, and we're trying to address the things from the same lens as a child's sight as an adult, because we didn't go back and have that chance to deconstruct that trauma, or the thing that we call trauma, that we may have experienced. And so I'm not saying that it's easy, but it is the premise of our self-work, of our self-improvement, and of our growth, because we can release so much that we don't even know sometimes that spill out into our world, into our work, into our relationships today. And we're going to talk a little bit about that in just a minute. I just kind of want to touch on a few of the areas that I covered in that first session. I covered a space called the life cream sandwich.
Oh, my goodness.
And the example of the life cream sandwich that I gave to our participants that day is the Oreo cookie. Mm-hmm. Did you guys know that Oreo cookies come in multiple flavors? So just the 4 that I focused in on it. We use the mint Oreo cookies. We use the lemon Oreo cookies. We use the vanilla Oreo cookies. What was the third one? The fourth one.
Was it double stuffed? It wasn't chocolate.
It wasn't chocolate. I can't think of what the fourth one was now. I probably didn't eat that. I know I ate the lemon. I ate the lemon and I ate the vanilla. But just to give the example, I was thinking about, and this came in the form of a download, became a tool, that if you think about an Oreo cookie, there's a cookie at the bottom, there's the ooey gooey creamy stuff in the middle, and then on the top, there's another cookie. And so the insight that I gained in that process was that the bottom cookie kind of represented our life circumstances, what we were born into, the things that we really can't change. So that's kind of there, right? The ooey gooey stuff was our life choices and our experiences. And that cookie on the top becomes our strongholds, how we act out the experiences and our life circumstances and how it shows up in our lives. How it shows up for many of us is when those strongholds. And our strongholds kind of concurrently follow the process that Lakita just laid out. The strongholds are distraction, control, pride, abandonment, and rejection. So for in my work, what I've uncovered is that those 5 things become a stronghold, and that stronghold can shift to the particular circumstance or life experience that you have. And we act it out in this way. But when we start to, like many of us love to do, is to untwist that Oreo cookie and separate the top and the bottom, and the experiences that are exposed in the middle help us to be able to navigate then those strongholds. And so that was one of the components of the workshop that I shared. And then the other one was actually the stages that I use for grief, that I've identified for grief. And just going to run through them really quickly because I really want to get to this next bullet point. So the stages of grief being shock, emotional release, depression, physical symptoms, anxiety, hostility, guilt, inability to return to normal, your healing, and then the acceptance of whatever that loss might be. And identifying it and trying to navigate where you are in your grief. And again, we're talking about it could be any type of loss. It could be the change of a circumstance, not just the loss of a loved one or friend, but it could also be a pregnancy loss. It could also be the loss of a job or financial security, and some of the experiences that we've had and got grown used to. The shift in those things can also trigger the emotion of grief. But understanding that grief is also a process that we need to understand. And in our next session, session 2, we're going to talk about what's beneath the grief, because that is ultimately one of the tools you need to learn and put in your toolbox. Again, when we share our work, we want you to be healthy and whole, but we want you to be a catalyst for the next person's health and wellness. So that might be your child, that might be your mate, that might be your best friend, it may be a parent, it may be a neighbor, it may be a coworker. We want you to have the tools so that you can continue this work outside of you, that you can share these tools with others so we can all work toward this wellness and wholeness that we are so entitled to. This is one of the things that we are entitled to have, is our health and our wellness, but we have to be the investors in it. We have to be the driving force in that work. And I want to kind of segue into the areas of domestic violence and some of the triggers in the grief response process. When we talk about what's beneath the grief, sometimes what's beneath the violence, oftentimes you can find those 5 strongholds. And I'm sure Lakita has
the ants.
Yeah, of her ants, right? The ants we can find what's beneath the grief. We can find what's beneath the violence. Now, being able to find them is also being able to take the steps to prevent them, to release the trauma and the drama from those circumstances. And we understand that because when they're so deeply rooted and it has gone on for so long that it's become beyond a habit but a lifestyle, domestic violence can become a lifestyle, and both on both sides, because both are victims of those circumstances, those life circumstances. And how do we start to move and heal through this process? Again, it's not easy, but it can be done, and it should be done on both sides, because we have to release that grief and trauma. And Lakita, you want to share something about that?
Yeah, just to add to that, I know that domestic violence, or intimate partner violence as it's being known by now, is a lot of reasons why individuals stay in relationships and why it's so difficult to exit. And so even in the work that I do as a divorce recovery coach, a lot of that unpacking has a lot to do with the story that you've been telling yourself about why you stayed so long. And so it's a safe environment to have that, even where we're having it, the Avalon Healing Center, they advocate for survivors of sexual abuse and human trafficking. So they are even aware of the delicacy that comes with the exit strategy. I was just talking with a gentleman earlier, very briefly, who spearheads a company called Safe Haven Services, and they are a fintech company, because he realizes, and I realize also, that a lot of the reason why women stay is the financial abuse that's being done. Mm-hmm. I don't have the money to leave. I won't be able to start over. I won't be able to. And so even just the way that we view money, the way that we view our ownership of our lives, again, underneath it all is a story that we've been telling ourselves our whole life. And so being able to identify that and unpack that and rewrite that story is going to be empowering and freeing, so that you can have autonomy and agency on your healing journey.
And just keeping in mind, we're talking about both the person who perpetrates violence against another and those who are on the other side of that violence. We know that there's healing for all of us. Mm-hmm. We know that there's healing for all of us. We have to take those first critical steps, because some things, again, have become lifestyle and are more difficult to challenge and channel and change. But it can be done. It can be done. And there are lots of practitioners out. There are resources out. And also, I just want to mention that the suicidal ideation that goes along with the unresolved grief, that goes with the issues, the stories that we tell ourselves underneath the experience, is also a very delicate space, but also one that we can heal. We want and expect that everybody has the opportunity to heal. And if you don't have a channel or a resource, you please reach out to us. You can reach out to me personally, Heather Heteru. You can reach out to me at 313-759-7855. That's 313-759-7855. I have a team of therapists and counselors who can work with you through these issues. Whichever issue, whichever path you're on, whichever life lesson you are overcoming, we have the resources to help you. Whether you have insurance or you don't have insurance, we have tools and ways to help you. It starts off with a phone call. If you want to change your circumstances, change your mindset, you can start with us and we'll help you navigate those difficult waters. I want to give Lakita just a moment to respond and see if there's anything you want to share about the domestic violence component.
Well, like you mentioned, this is a healing opportunity for all. And I think it's important for us to continue to stress the safe environment. In the work that I do, it's trauma-informed care, which means that I recognize that you are the owner of your life. You have autonomy and agency on your healing journey. And this is a safe environment, no judgment. This is a judgment-free zone, regardless of religion, sex, culture, whatever it may be, that makes you you. we respect and honor your individual journey. And so this is an opportunity for healing. Again, to register for this event, the easiest way is to go on any of my social, LaKitaSimone.com. On the event page, that's LAQUITA. Oh, it's right there on the screen. Perfect. SIMONE.com. On the events page, you can purchase your tickets there. And you can also, we at the door, we welcome that as well. I think that's it.
Okay.
Oh, to reach out to me personally.
Yes.
Should leave that. You can reach out to me personally at 586-684-5994. And again, just as Heather, I have a team of therapists, counselors, social workers, other practitioners like myself that do holistic or alternative healing type therapies as well.
Thank you. Thank you for adding that. And that so that people are aware that there are alternatives. There are alternatives, but the step that takes us to the next level is your next step. Mm-hmm. And so reach out to us if you need that, those resources, and if you're ready to make that call. And just again, that this is session 2 that's coming up. And in session 2, we're going to cover the new family dynamics and boundaries for grief recovery. So how do you start that process? How do you hold yourself accountable through that process? How does this now spill over into your families and your relationships? And how can you support them as they're supporting you take this next important step? So session 2 is going to be great. We're going to continue with the great food and fellowship. I just thought I'd put that back out there. The food and fellowship and the safe space, and come and have just the sensory experience. Yeah. What you see, what you hear, what you feel, what you smell, what you taste. Come and have this sensory experience with us. It's a new way to heal and using some new tools and new dynamics. It is not like something you're going to experience and have experienced before, because you have 2 dynamic people who have all of this love and passion in the work that we do for you and to help you to navigate these deep waters of self-discovery. So please remember to do that. And some of the things that you can look forward to in session 2 is deeper self-exploration, rewriting your story, as we talked about earlier, around energy and frequency of grief, and then understanding what's beneath. It's more to it than that, but those are just a few nuggets to get you to come in and register and join us this Friday, August 25th, at the Avalon Healing Center at 601 Bagley. You can pay for your registration, which is $40. That's $40 at the door. And come and join us and have this great fellowship in a space that is conducive to love and self-love and wholeness as well as healing. So join us then. I want to just keep a few announcements. So for those who are supporting Emmy, who are following Calvin Mann and myself on social media, Calvin is having a amazing September birthday, and that event is coming up on Saturday, September the 16th at Focus Hope. And it is an opportunity to not only just fellowship, but also join. If you haven't met him in person, come and meet him. If you haven't met me in person, come and join us as we celebrate not just him and his birthday, but his life's work. He's put in 38 years in our community, 38 years invested in our kids, 38 years invested in our family, and especially in our men, husbands, and fathers. Come and join us, celebrate with us, help support. Tickets are $20. You can reach out to me also for those tickets. You can reach me at 313-759-7855. You can reach out to Calvin. Also, you can catch us on social media. Please, we're looking forward to packing that space out. We have 3 huge rooms that will host many of our community members. Come and celebrate with us in a peaceful, safe environment. There's some perks to being a part of this work. There will be some things that you will have a chance to see and connect to at that amazing event. Again, that's Saturday, September the 16th. We are celebrating for and with Calvin T. Mann, his birthday and his 38 years of work in the community, his work with boys, men, husbands, and fathers, his work in the restoration of families. So come out and join us. Meet us for the first time. Meet us for the second time. Our family, friends, and loved ones, come and join us and celebrate with us. We need to give people their flowers while they're with us. And so this is a way for anyone that's out there that's been impacted by Emmy, our work, Calvin T. Mann, join us at that event. Thank you. Thank you for staying with us today on our Emmy TV podcast. Put your family first, because that is how we're going to restore our families. Thank you.